John Charles was the first black player to appear on a regular basis for West Ham United. Charlo, as he was known by friends, fans and teammates alike, made his debut for Ron Greenwood's West Ham in May 1963. Born in Canning Town in 1944, the eighth of 9 children, he had already become the first black player to represent England when appearing for the under-18s in an international tie against Israel in Tel Aviv, a 3-1 win for the Three Lions that John also scored in, thereby setting another record. And it's that particular achievement John's family are keen for the history books to recognise, with, they say, John's record having largely been forgotten for the last 40 or 50 years. I'm now delighted to be joined by John's son, Mitch, who is currently campaigning for his father to be afforded the recognition he deserves as England's first black international footballer. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm good, Graeme. Thanks for the introduction. It was lovely. I'm good, yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we really appreciate you joining us this afternoon to talk about your dad and his career. You're understandably very proud of Dad's achievement, but the record books have until now failed to recognise this. Why do you think that is?
Graeme, that I don't know. I've grown up with it. It's been part of my life from being a school kid up to the present day. I just do not understand why my dad hasn't, why he's not in. Do you know what, Graeme? For years, it never really bothered us. It never really bothered us because there was no data. You couldn't go on a computer and type it in and get a result. You know, the computers didn't exist when we was all growing up. Yeah. So up until they existed, it never bothered us. Then even the first 10 years of computers, no one really done much of them, did they? But now everything's statted and documented and stuff like that. Now it's becoming a little bit of a burden, to be honest, because every single time I type John Charles in, of course there's the Welsh John Charles, but John Charles West Ham, John Charles England, or the first black player to play for England, it always comes up with someone else. Why he's forgotten, I don't know. Do you know what? If I had no evidence at all, I could understand it. But we've got a fair amount, you know.
Yeah. In that particular game, Mitch, your dad was one of 3 hammers, along with Martin Britt and Johnny Sissons. The latter, of course, who went on to win the FA Cup and European Cup Winners' Cup medal. Although your dad went on to play 142 times for West Ham between 62 and 1970, did he ever express any disappointment at not being involved in either of those matches? I know he did say at one point in an interview, I think, with Brian Belton, he said that I would like to have played, but it didn't really worry me. But I just wondered if, perhaps behind the scenes he was a little bit more, or perhaps there was more remorse at not having featured in those games.
It was very humble, very humble. So I'd love to say, I'd love to give you an honest answer, but I don't know. Yeah. I do know, though, that he did play in the semi-finals of the European Cup Winners' Cup, and he got injured. It's another one of them would have, could have, should have events, you know. The bottom line is he was injured. He couldn't play in the final. If he was even going to be picked for the final, I don't know. What I do know is he was picked and he did play for the semi-final, but he's never mentioned, you know.
Yeah, still involved in that, what was still to this day the club's greatest achievement.
Yeah,
in a way. Your dad signed pro terms at the age of 17. And in 1963, captained West Ham to an FA Cup youth win, which was for those. My mum was there, actually, funnily enough. And she often tells me about that, or used to tell me about that game. Yeah. It was, of course, and your dad set another record there as the first black player to lead a team to an FA Cup, Youth Cup success at the time.
Yeah, he done that. There's this, do you know what, Graeme? There's so many little landmarks along the way of things that he did and achieved. Mm-hmm. And again, all of them have just been put to the wayside. But yeah, it was. I actually went to the FA Youth Cup game. I think it was in the mid-90s, I think, and over the old Boleyn. Yeah. And for me, it was fantastic. It was a great day by all of us. Like when we went to, it was a fantastic match, and I was trying to think what it would have been like when my dad was playing years ago. But yeah, look, he's got a fantastic photo of him holding the cup up, proud. It's one of my greatest photos of my dad. You know, football related.
I mean, I do have. You've been very. I've been very fortunate to receive a number of photos from you of your dad's career, which I'm going to actually intersperse with this video once we get to putting it out there. But another thing I wanted to ask you about, in the last week or so, there's been a campaign started to erect a statue in honour of former Plymouth player Jack Leslie, who also, as we know, hails from Canning Town. Jack, for those who are unaware, was denied the opportunity to represent England in 1925 because of his skin colour, which ultimately meant that your dad was the first black player to do so. The new Mayor Roxana Fiaz has given her approval to plans for a statue of Mr. Leslie. Would you like to see something similar erected for your father?
Well, I never knew that, to be honest. But sorry, I never knew about the new mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know what? I've thought about this over the last couple of weeks, and I've got nothing against Jack Leslie. Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly a trailblazer himself. I've got no issues with it. The bit that bugs me at the moment is, if my old man had been documented as being the first black guy to ever play for England for the last 50 years, okay, then Jack Leslie come along, okay, and superseded him, I think, okay, fair enough. Okay, it's cool. But as he's been forgotten for the last 50 years, okay, and it's always been the wrong man, now in the last couple of weeks, the FA have just put a line, a couple of lines on their website that he did play for West Ham, play for England, and Jack Leslie's come along as well. He's kind of been forgotten again. But nothing against the statue. Go ahead with it, you know. But I still would love to have the recognition from my dad. Now, what I was thinking, Graeme, myself, and if it happens, I have no idea. And the only reason I mention this as well is because I've just recently noticed that Laurie Cunningham has got a blue plaque somewhere up in London, I think it's London, saying that he was the first black guy to play for England. Now, he wasn't, okay? It was my dad. Now, my dad would be dead in 20 years, in 13 months' time, okay? You've got to be dead for 20 years to get a blue plaque, okay? If they want to put one up at the London Stadium, I'll be happy with that. If they want to put a little engraving on a paving slab, on the floor or something, I'll be happy with that. Statue, I ain't too bothered about it, you know? If they want to do that, yeah, go for it. He gets the Charles, we okay it, if it happens, I don't.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, actually, because since we spoke last week, there's been some changes or some sort of movement. The FA, as you state there, have changed the record books. Wikipedia, in fact, now says that John was the first black player to represent England. So that's something there. But I understand you've also been in touch with West Ham as well. I just wondered what the club have said, if anything, about recognising John's achievement.
I've sent a few emails and stuff. I've heard nothing back. I'd love to hear something back, you know. I'm not, you know, I understand they're all busy people. They've got a lot on. I don't expect them to drop anything and come towards me. I'd be honoured if they did, you know. Not just for me. It's not just for the Scholes family. It's for the Hammers. It's for us. We're a club, you know. If we can get that, and for us to be the first, you know, it was a landmark, a huge landmark. And also, talking about statues and stuff like that, the other thing that also bugs me, okay, and this will kind of bring my uncle into it, Clive, is that West Bromwich Albion, they've also got a statue outside their stadium of the 3 Degrees, the first three black guys to play football for, like, in a league, first league club. It was West Ham. West Ham done it years before. Why are all these statues going up of the wrong people? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, actually, because that's something we've campaigned on at Knees Up Mother Brown for a while to get that recognised. In fact, I can remember being in contact with the BBC on several occasions to point out the fact that it wasn't, you know, Cunningham, Batson and Regis who were the first 3 players to represent the First Division team. It was actually your uncle, Clive, A.D. Coker and Clive Best. And I think it was 1970, if memory serves right, on Easter against Tottenham. I think we won 2-0 and A.D. Coker scored, didn't he? The second goal. I think Brookins scored. But yeah, I mean, it's hopefully it's something that West Ham are going to, you know, recognise a bit more in years to come.
Yeah.
hopefully. But I just wanted to touch quickly also, while I've got you here, just wanted to touch on your dad's career a little bit. He usually wore the number 3 shirt for West Ham, where he played alongside Bobby Moore, we know, for about 130 times. Were your dad and Bobby close friends, or, you know, Bobby had this reputation of being sort of quite aloof outside of football? Did they sort of get along, do you know, or did they socialise at all?
Socialise? Well, I remember Bobby Moore come around our house and started eating our roast potatoes in the kitchen. So, and also another amazing thing, really, when West Ham were on a tournament, this is work related rather than social, but it's still very closely linked. When West Ham were out in Texas, playing at the Houston Astrodome, I think the Astrodome, they went out there. They was playing against Real Madrid and stuff like that, and it was in 1969. And my mum was in labour with my daughter, with my sister, okay, and she gave birth, and my dad phoned up. Seconds after she gave birth, okay, but I think no, it wasn't a photograph. It was a. I'm trying to think of the story now. Cut a long story short, Bobby Moore come around the house.
Yep.
Minutes after giving birth, okay, got on a plane out to Texas and gave my dad. I don't think it was a photo, but it was something to do with you've had a daughter, which is fantastic. Yeah, but they always, as far as I'm aware, they got on okay. You know, I don't think I was on the phone every 2 minutes. But for work colleagues, drinking pals and stuff like that, if it was mainly associated around the club, possibly.
There was quite a close socialising culture, I think you could describe it, amongst the West Ham players at the time. And I think Brian Deere it was who gave a lovely eulogy to your father at his funeral in 2002, when he said that football is surely indebted to John, as he undoubtedly paved the way for black players who now enjoy the fame, riches and adulation which he has most certainly helped make possible. Do you think your dad was ever aware of how important his achievement actually was?
No, I don't think he was. I really don't think he was. He either wasn't aware or it didn't bother him.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, he was just one of us. You know, he was just a normal East End guy. He never had no problems or anything. You know, he was just one of us, and that was it. I don't think he was either too humble to recognise it, or it didn't bother him. One of the two. He didn't speak about it. He didn't speak about it a great deal.
Yeah. He played 8 years for West Ham, and then sadly injury put an end to his career here. Did he continue to watch West Ham afterwards? Was he did he still keep in touch with the players even though he wasn't there anymore?
Well, you say 8 years, and it was 8 years officially, but
as a pro,
I think he started as ground staff in about 57 to about 71. So he was associated for the club for 14, 15 years or so. He used to keep in touch with Brian Deere. What a fantastic guy he is. Lampard Senior, he used to keep in touch with him. They were the main two, really. But Eddie Bovington used to keep in touch with Ed. And there's probably more that I don't know of, But yeah, them three, their names are always mentioned. We're still in touch with Brian now. Yeah, he's fantastic, Brian. He's looking well. He's looking well at the moment.
Yeah, he's a character, that's for sure. It's good to see, Mitch, that the claret and blue blood flows in your veins as well. I mean, do you attend West Ham games? You're a season ticket holder?
I don't live in London anymore. I live too far away now. But I used to go there as a kid. I used to go there all the time. Mainly over the North Bank. Too scared to go in the South Bank at the time. I was too young. But now, unfortunately, I don't get over there. Would I like to? Do you know what? They're in my DNA. I love them. I love them to bits. but a few more wins, a few more wins behind them, get the motivation going, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we can certainly do with a bit of that. I mean, just one final question before we wrap up. Are you confident that the club are going to avoid relegation this season?
Am I confident? Well, I am. Yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. The other night was fantastic when we beat who was it, Chelsea 3-2. That was fantastic. That was. Well, let's hope. Let's hope for all of us. Let's hope for all us Hammer fans out there that we get another year in the Premiership. Although the Championship looks quite good at the moment. Some good games going on in there.
Well, we set a few records down there, didn't we, when we were last there 9 or 10 years ago? Record number of away wins for the club and all that stuff. And there was certainly plenty of goals going in. But I guess ideally you want to be playing in the top flight, don't you, against, the best teams in the country, perhaps?
Of course you do. Of course you do. Yeah, yeah. We've got to fill that stadium.
Well,
I'm sure.
Yeah. Assuming we can all get back at one point, that is. I should just point out that behind me is a wonderful picture of your dad that you sent me by email, which I've used as my backdrop today. It's quite almost like quite one of those iconic 60s photos. It's a lovely shot of him anyway. But Mitch, I'd just like to say thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me and Knees Up Mother Brown this afternoon. And we all wish you the very best of luck with your campaign in getting John recognised, for the trailblazing player that he was.
No worries, Graeme. Thanks for having us. Knees Up Mother Brown. Well, I've known about him for years, but keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Cheers, buddy. You take care.
Thank you.